Yo, what up? It's Doenut, and you tuning in to all yo Illuminati news. And we got a special live show for you today with Jason at Crowdsource the Truth. We're going to be going over Masonic symbolism and the Charlie Kirk assessment, drones, Bluetooth cover up, and much, much more. But first, how are you doing today, Jason?
I'm well, Donut. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so grateful that you're here with us. I've been a fan of yours for a few years now, and your coverage of the Las Vegas event that went down in October. We're coming up on October. Are we in October? No,
yeah, tomorrow.
Yes, and your Butler footage. You just do some great work, and I got all of your links down below. Just very grateful to have you here with us today.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for shouting me out on Tinfoil Hat the other day. People were saying, hey, they're talking about you. And that was nice of you. I appreciate it.
Well, so I was on, shout out to Sam Tripoli. I was on the Tinfoil Hat pretty much right after this event went down with Charlie Kirk. And it was very new in the information. And I was watching your YouTube channel and you were covering the different drones. And that was something that got brought up. I'm trying to see if I got a cool drone shot. Looking, I'll keep looking for it. But yeah, I had to give you a shout out because you were talking about some futuristic technology that we're in right now. A lot of people are kind of in this caveman age thinking about like missiles and stuff. We're in another world with 5th generation warfare. And I really like that you're covering a lot of these technologies. Can you tell us a little bit about that Bluetooth drone right when we start this?
Absolutely. So, I mean, to be clear, everything we're talking about, these are my hypotheses that I've formed from looking at evidence, and people are free to disagree with me. They might look at the same evidence and come to a different conclusion. But what basically happened was, after Charlie Kirk was killed, like most people, I went to the internet looking for video footage to see what was going on. And one of the first things I found was a live stream from a guy named Adam Bartholomew on his YouTube channel, Life is Driving. And I downloaded it and I was evaluating it. And then I became confused because I had this 27-minute one. And I said, well, wait a minute. Didn't I just see it somewhere when it was an hour or more? And so I went back to his channel and I noticed that, you can go in YouTube to the live tab and then to the videos tab. And he had a 27-minute one on live, and he had an hour and 7 or hour and 9 or something like that on the videos, as if he had uploaded it. Now, you've told me, you've seen me walking around New York City doing the live streams and whatever. New York City is obviously a lot of RF pollution, radio signals of all kinds. And when you walk all over the city broadcasting from a cell phone, sometimes you're going to get cut off from the network. So I've developed all kinds of different techniques for preserving the show. And one of the oldest is to record it locally on the phone. So even if the live stream cuts out, I have a recording of the show in the phone, and I come home, I download it from the phone, I upload it to YouTube, and then people can see the full show. Yeah, there I am walking around.
Love this show. This was a great show. Sorry for interrupting, but you
no, that's fine.
Ran into somebody who I podcast with before, who released the Jeffrey files early on. So that was
Nick Bryant.
Yeah, so that was a cool surprise. Oh, right here.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you never know who you're going to run into going around New York City. So I've developed all these different techniques for kind of protecting the stream, And when I saw that Adam Bartholomew had a 27-minute stream in an hour and 7, I was like, okay, this guy must have lost signal. And I started looking at the shorter stream, and I realized it cut out literally 1 second before the shot was fired at Charlie Kirk. And, Donut, I've been watching a lot of your stuff just lately, and thank you again for calling me out on Sam Tripoli. And I know nothing about Illuminati and Masonic stuff compared to you. Obviously, you've studied this extensively. I'm aware of it and I'm intrigued by it and I want to know more about it, but I really have been drawn in to some of your content. And I bring it up only to say, I just don't think coincidences are as common as certain people would like us to believe. I think a lot of these things are hidden and shrouded in events that they would like most people to think are coincidence. And people who would watch a show like mine or yours and say, oh, these guys are conspiracy theorists. I think there's a certain type of person who has a mindset where they are so opposed to the concept that we're talking about a conspiracy theory that they want to be an anti-conspiracy theorist. So no matter how much evidence there is of a criminal conspiracy, they're going to deny it. And for me, when the live stream, the guy's walking around for 19 minutes with no disruption whatsoever. He's not in the middle of New York City walking past police cars and Verizon trucks and all kinds of people using all kinds of powerful radios. He's in the middle of a college campus. It just occurred to me that it's far too coincidental to be a coincidence that his live stream cut out 1 second before Charlie was shot. So I called Adam Bartholomew and I spoke to him. He's a very nice guy, very clever guy. And he explained to me that he's put together a system, different components, but the same concept as what I'm doing. He wants to be mobile and going around. He's going to a lot of different political events. And the problem that he has is when a lot of people are using their cell phones or a lot of people are jamming the Wi-Fi, he's finding that it reduces his ability to reliably stream. So like me, he put together a link aggregated bonding system that allows him to use all available wireless networks, and he has local recording. Now, what's interesting is he uses a system where each of the cameras have their own memory in them, so they're recording to the cameras. He's not using cell phones like I am. He's got specific Wi-Fi cameras that connect to his iPad. And what he said to me when I was explaining this all to him, that I felt that he had been deliberately disrupted by something, he said to me, well, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and I don't want to fuel the fire, but I've been using this system for about 2 years and it always records to the SD cards in the camera. I normally use those to make a high quality edit after the live stream. And this Charlie Kirk event was the first time he's ever used his system where the memory in the cameras failed.
Oh,
and
weird.
the only reason he had a recording at all was that he created a secondary redundant system where he connected the cameras by network hardwire to the iPad. And I said, Adam, can I have that iPad recording? It was about 8 times the file size of what went out on the live stream on YouTube that he had uploaded. Now, he didn't have a live stream on YouTube. That got cut off, but he had uploaded this big iPad file to YouTube and YouTube shrunk that down. When I got his original iPad file, that had so much data in it, it allowed me to zoom in on these little dots and to be able to discern details to tell what's a bird, what's an insect, and finally, the 3 items that I identified there that look like drones. And so, Doenut, what I surmised was these drones, I believe there was a drone swarm there that was used to identify, let's call them enemy communications, unauthorized recordings or broadcasts of this event. And using the U.S. Army Hades system, the high accuracy detection and exploitation system, I believe Adam Bartholomew was identified and some type of electronic exploit was used against him. Now, let me just show you this real quick. This is a website from an IT security company called Oligo. And this is from April. There was a patch to iOS on about September 15th, but on September 10th, this 0-day exploit was still a vulnerability for iOS devices, including Adam Bartholomew's iPad, which was using Bluetooth. This describes a wormable 0-click remote code execution exploit that is basically a flaw in Apple's Bluetooth stack that allows any iOS device to be attacked. And what it means by zero click is you don't have to respond to an email from the Prince of Nigeria. You don't have to go to a particular website to launch this malicious code. They've called this thing airborne, and they do that because just anybody within Bluetooth proximity of you, and if you have a new device, I think that's a pretty large radius, 800 feet or 800 yards, pretty big, they can launch a Bluetooth attack that will disrupt your system and can cause it to crash. It can disrupt communications. So what you're showing right now, this is a U.S. Army news site telling us about this Hades program. They have currently two, not Embraer, they have Bombardier, 2 jets that they are testing all kinds of experimental equipment that can conduct these exploits. Now, an exploit of an enemy communication system would be something that is used to disrupt its ability to communicate, to cause it to fail, something similar to this Bluetooth airborne zero-click wormable exploit. And I just think it's far too coincidental that Adam Bartholomew was cut off from the internet and from recording at the exact moment that Charlie Kirk was shot. If Adam Bartholomew wasn't such a tenacious innovator in his pursuit of high quality live streams, we would have never seen that video. We would have never heard the audio from Charlie Kirk being shot. We would have never seen the video that included the drones. And, it's my belief that whoever did this assassination did that on purpose. So let this segment play for a second and everybody can see what we're talking about with the drones. Now, there's something that's going to fly over the crowd. It's 12:23. Charlie Kirk has just been shot seconds ago, and Adam Bartholomew repositions his tripod. He's on the second level there at the college. Charlie Kirk is just about in the center of the frame. So 30 seconds after he's shot, this thing comes out. Now, in my experience, when guns get fired and human chaos ensues, birds fly away. They don't fly perfect circles right over a crowd of screaming humans. That looks like a reconnaissance drone to me, doing a single orbital over the crowd. It very likely has a high-speed camera in it, and it could be taking hundreds or even thousands of pictures in the few seconds that it flies over. It would radio transmit those pictures back to the Hades jet, the Bombardier 6500G that was nearby, and or collect them for analysis later. And then we have this item show up. And look, it starts to emit smoke. I don't know if your viewers can see that, but it looks to me like it's emitting smoke. And I think that's an indicator that this is either a lithium polymer battery-powered drone that's experiencing a failure and is about to catch on fire, or it might be a gasoline hybrid electric drone burning gas. Then we have this fast-moving drone that shoots across the frame in about 5 or 6 frames of video, 1/5 of a second. This thing shoots upward at the speed that a bird could only achieve, I think, if it were diving or flapping its wings vigorously. And we don't see any wing flapping. This thing is just circling around. Again, I suspect this is a reconnaissance drone of some kind. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't look like a bird to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. When I went to the memorial, I filmed a drone that was there. They cut off all the air flight, right? You can't have any airplanes above the memorial. Better. Sorry, let me mute that. But I just wanted to pull this up just for you. Maybe this wasn't the good shot. No, that wasn't the good shot. But that was the only thing in the sky at the memorial.
But I think people are used to seeing those type of photography drones at football games or special events where it's up there. That's clearly blinking a light so that other aircraft don't crash into it. Everybody knows what these type of aerial photography drones do. I think the drones that we saw, and again, Doenut, these are my opinions. People are free to disagree, but I did an extensive video study where I went through and I said, okay, here we see an insect. The segmented body is wiggling around as it flaps its wings. We can see the wings. Over there by the valley, we see a bird. It's diving down. There's a lake over there filled with fish and all kinds of things that birds are interested in. I don't think birds are coming over to the concrete buildings and the chaotic screaming humans. They don't like that stuff. They fly away from that. So I didn't just identify dots in the sky and say, oh, it's a drone. I tried to really study the distance to camera, the size of the object, the speed that it was moving. And these things don't move like the insects or the birds. They don't display the type of behavior that you just showed, where something is hovering over the crowd with safety lights so that aircraft don't crash into it. They seem to be some sort of clandestine military ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. That seems to be what these things are doing. And that's what the Army tells us this Embraer jet does. The craziest thing about it is people might say, oh, Jason is speculating about this Embraer jet, but I'm not, because as your viewers might know, anytime a jet, even a military jet, flies, it has to basically use public radar, just like that thing was trying to not get crashed into. Sorry, I got a message here. Oh, I need to resend verification. I'm logged out. Oh, there, you've got it right there. So this is public radar data. And, even a military jet needs to publish this data. What this is showing us is that one of two of these Army ISR jets flew circles right over Utah Lake, which is something like 2 miles or 6 miles. It's very close to the college. And the jet slowed down to just above its stall speed. So it's basically flying as slowly as it can while still maintaining, ability to fly. And it drops altitude from 38,000 feet, which is its normal cruising altitude, to just 200 feet above the ground. And it's flying over this lake. There it is. It's doing a loop. Now, it did that once in the morning, and then it did it again at about 11:45, something like 30 minutes before Charlie was shot. So the question is, did this thing release some drones that then flew over to the college and sent information back to the jet, or conducted some kind of mission? I don't know. But this is very suspicious public data. I mean, this is very, this is public evidence that can be checked. The reason why I'm putting so much strength on that evidence is because, somebody might say, oh, that's just a web page. Somebody could fake that. But no, these radio signals coming from the ADS-B transponder on an airplane are public radio signals that anybody can buy an antenna and track. And there are even open source groups that do that. Just like the FAA has these maps, there are other people who check these maps and can verify the data. So that's high credibility data there. And they're telling us that this Army jet with classified capabilities that is designed for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance was there. The program is called Hades, High Accuracy Detection and Exploitation System. And I think we had some sort of a drone with a camera with 4K, 8K, who knows? They say, hey, there's a guy on the second level. It looks like he's live streaming. Looks like he's using a Logitech Mevo. Okay, cycle through our directory of exploits, hit him with an Apple Bluetooth airborne exploit, shut down his recording, shut down his broadcast, only allow our controlled recordings to take place. What if they did these Bluetooth and other exploits to everybody that was live streaming on TikTok, live streaming on YouTube? A lot of people have said, how do we have 5,000 20-year-old college students there and only 6 videos coming out of the thing? Why don't we have hundreds of videos from this? Maybe multiple people were hit with this exploit.
Yes, there's so many people there. And this information is something I've been reading about for years, but never heard about this, but that makes total sense. But I did a deep dive about 10 years ago, or I don't know how long ago, maybe not 10 years ago. It came out in 2018, so maybe not that long ago. But the LeMay papers, which went into this 5th generation warfare of social engineering and lasers and all that. Here's just some images I thought was cool to pull up. But The LeMay papers right here, the Electromagnetic Defense Task Report, went all into this. And here's just some of the images that were in this 2018 report. And you got the different satellites, the different drones, different frequencies. And then they have this plane. I didn't read this. It's been so long. But we have entered a new age of fifth generation warfare, which is part of social engineering, misinformation, disinformation. I talked to Dr. Richard Spence, who was a professor at Idaho College on secret societies, nonetheless, Illuminati and all that. And
Wow.
he said that the difference between misinformation and disinformation is that misinformation is that we're human, we make mistakes. Disinformation is that it's put out there, omitting some certain aspects of facts and then leading people into an action. And we totally see this with the algorithms. So we have the Patsy, right? The famous Patsies. And this one at Charlie Kirk, there was all these different people. There's the one guy who was all like, I did it, different like Patsies. But now
George Zinn.
I heard, I guess he was at all these events
Yeah.
on your video. But now we have like digital Patsies in a way, and algorithms and tons of flooding. Like this story is so viral, it gets pushed viral. Like it seems like it's meant to be confusing people, and it kind of goes align with my AI reading of The Orb Will See You Now, how we're not going to know the difference between reality and fiction. And you're a video guy, I'm a video guy, so this is something I've been showing my audience. When the Crown Prince was talking, I was sort of like, oh, wow, he looks like an AI, just like in the movie Civil War. I do video editing, so I know when someone's face is real and fake, because that's what I do. I look at people's faces and edit it, and I'm like, this guy's not real, but it's not like catching any steam. But this is real, like you can tell from
right.
So that was a big part of the different stories coming out, with Trump's hands being AI. And I'm like, yeah, there definitely is AI, but it's not a bad thing. It makes you look better. And it's a good military strategy where it makes, you're a president, you're going to have to be going around different places. It makes sense. And even with the birds, just to add on top of the birds, in Sun Tzu's Art of War, he talks about how the battles, if you walk to a field and it's empty and there's no birds, that means an army just walked by, because the birds don't like to be around an army.
Right.
So if there's a bunch of birds, nobody's walked by like a lot of people. And this, like you said, there's so many people here. And then the frame rate too, I want to get into. There's a lot I want to get into.
Well, just one quick thing on what you were just saying about fake people. I think, the concept of the orb, and it's difficult for people to wrap their minds around, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to tell reality from fiction. I think your mind goes to like a Star Trek holodeck kind of experience, which is perhaps a little bit far-fetched. But let me offer this. This is a photograph of Tyler Robinson. And the thing that's interesting is, recently they said that his lover or boyfriend or furry or whatever that guy is, Twigs, has disappeared. And I just put these lines, I matched the size of their heads in Photoshop, and I put these lines in the same position. The facial symmetry between these two characters is so unbelievably close. If you put this guy in a black hat, sunglasses, and a tactical jacket, it's two different cameras, two different pictures. I realize these aren't the highest quality samples, but how do we really know which of these guys is which. And so, even though we might not be in a completely convincing virtual reality, these are almost like virtual characters that are presented to us as something real. But how do we know? We've seen them in jail on Zoom or in court on Zoom. We've seen them in pictures on the internet. Even early on when people were like looking for this suspect, somebody released an AI enhanced image and people were like, oh no, don't fall for those AI enhanced images. And people out there who don't know, like you and I, that visual effects and graphics and artificial intelligence, they're like, oh no, now I have to worry about AI. I don't know what I'm looking at. And it does start to have this insidious effect of playing on their minds and causing them to not know what they can or cannot believe, even if they're looking right at something.
Even the assassin, this is like the year of the assassins, with the smiling assassin, the Mangione character.
Oh, yeah.
When that was being released, it's like, who is he? It's different people, it looks like, with the pictures, at least from when I was looking at it. Was a while ago, but it looked like a woman and then a man. I mean, that was super strange.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because we now have almost like a body of evidence to examine. Remember when the Butler, PA assassination attempt occurred, we had all these different people who were presented as Thomas Crooks. There was somebody who was in his car making a video saying, oh, I'm Thomas Crooks, but you got the wrong guy. There was somebody walking across on the roof. What a lot of people didn't see is when the Butler police released a series of body cam videos, in that video where someone is seen walking across the roof by a police body cam, someone else is walking on the ground in the opposite direction right below him, essentially looking the same. Skinny white guy with long hair wearing cargo shorts or something like that. And the thing is, when you're far away, when you're looking at police body camera videos, two skinny white guys in cargo pants, they kind of look the same, in the same way that Twiggs and Robinson might look the same. They fit the same description. And what did we hear in Butler, PA? This 20-year-old kid defies cops by running around a building for 20 minutes. What is that? The stupidest thing we've ever heard of? How does that work? It just smacks of deception, that they're like, okay, he's over by the water fountain. And they go there and like, no, he's not. He's over here by the building. And it's like, wait, where is he? And then there's a guy with a bicycle. It just seems like using doppelgangers early in the process seems to be a pretty common tactic in these assassinations. It's almost like they want to put out a bunch of information, see who bubbles up to the surface with what theories, and start to use this kind of disinformation that you're talking about to counteract some of these theories. And so this goes back to me being suppressed for the past 3 days on Twitter. And I know that sounds very like complainy. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just saying, I have a pretty normal, X. I have a pretty normal X account where I put out a post and maybe 1,000 people see it. Crowdsource the Truth has been around for like 9 years. But when I started doing all this reporting on the drones and everything about the Charlie Kirk assassination, I got unprecedented attention because I think the quality of the information was very, very good. And for 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row, I had individual posts that exceeded 1 million views in 24 hours. I've never had that before. And starting 3 days ago, I've become sensitive content. So almost everything I post right now, whether it does meet the description of sensitive content on X or not, I even put out a screenshot of an email from X that said, oh, okay, thank you for the correction. We've removed the sensitive content label. I just put that image out of the screen capture of that text and said, okay, good, we're moving in the right direction. And they said, this is sensitive content. So clearly some sort of setting has been applied to my account, because it's not like I put it out and it percolates for a day and somebody's offended that it's showing Charlie Kirk bleeding and they report it and somebody reviews it and then it gets the label. 1 second after I post it, it's labeled as sensitive content. And so far few people can see it. Now, again, I'm going to go to speculation here. People are free to come to their own conclusions, but I don't believe this is happening by accident. I believe something at X And it's not necessarily the owner, Elon Musk. It could be low-level people. I'm sure he's not reading my tweets. He's a very busy guy launching things into space and whatnot. But something at X is stopping my information from getting out. And I think it's because I'm very close to the truth of what happened, at least in some aspects of this case. And they are a network for disseminating disinformation, controlled information.
Yes, and I'm just showing here just how many videos are viral. It's something doesn't go viral like consistently, but when you're getting suppressed like that, you're onto something. So keep on pushing and keep on digging. And everybody, make sure to go click the link below, especially if you're on YouTube. Let's go support Jason and go. You're going to love his content. It's so much fun. I don't know how you walk around so much. It must be a New York thing. I try to walk around and I get like out of breath and like talking and doing amazing video edits and all that. But when it comes to video production, you look at the frame rates just like I do. You have this deep understanding of cinema. And here's just some images of the different frame rates on the NVIDIA website. And when we're uploading video footage and then ripping it and then uploading it, even YouTube added a new AI tool to make videos look better when you upload it.
Look better.
And people are noticing they're putting like weird symbols and stuff. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but I want to see why they wouldn't. But I would film a lot with my cell phone for other companies. And when it was an iPhone, to put it into Premiere, you got to go into the settings as well and change the saturation. So there's like a lot you got to do just to have the raw video footage. Now, you've been looking into some more clips that you found. Can you explain what's going on here with these three different, I don't even know what it is.
It's a projectile, I believe. And yes, the frame rate is very important. Now, I don't want people to get confused. The NVIDIA could be talking about the frame rate of video games, which is similar, but the frame rate of photography is very important. And it's instructive to think back to the days of motion picture film first. People, I think, can envision, looking at a strip of film and you see a sequence of images, and people generally understand that when we project 24 or 30 still images in a second in succession, it creates the illusion of motion. And that's the normal frame rate when you go to the movie theater and look at a 35 millimeter film, if anybody still has those, or even a digital film. Movies are shot at 24 frames per second, and television is 30 frames per second. And I won't go into the details of why that difference exists, but let's just talk about 30 frames per second. That's considered the normal frame rate for regular motion, and separate from the frame rate, how many pictures are taken per second, there is the exposure time of each picture. It's also useful to think back to the days of the old camera where you click, you hit a shutter, and there's a certain amount of time that a mechanical shutter is open, exposing the film to light, and then it closes again. If you're in a very, very dark room, people have seen these long exposures at night where car headlights are streaking around, but the buildings look sort of hyper realistically illuminated, because still objects, the light can accumulate, and moving objects become very smeary. So you can have really long exposure time or really short exposure time. If we're at a baseball game, the World Series, bright sunny day, and we want to freeze the action of the bat cracking just as it touches the baseball and it's frozen there in midair, that's a very quick exposure time. We just want to expose the image sensor or the film to light for a brief instant. And most people, I think, have become familiar with these variable frame rates by watching these high-speed channels. There's ballistic high speed, and there's the high-speed guys who are, shooting bullets and all kinds of things. This is an example. Probably the camera's 10,000 frames per second, 1 million frames per second. There's even a camera that I just saw the other day that can now shoot 20. Yeah, these guys, ballistic high speed, they're shooting 20 million frames per second. It's mind-blowing. It's just unbelievable. So, right, see, here's 2 million. So they're doing things like shooting supersonic rifle rounds, and you can evaluate how the explosive charge evolves over the course of a fraction of a second. 2 million frames per second. Each picture is 1/2 millionth of a second. You can study the obliteration of a bullet. Now, if you took this picture with an iPhone in 1/30th of a second, so much activity is happening in 1/30th of a second. This would just look like a smear if you got anything, because just like when we're at night with the film shutter open to capture the still buildings and the car headlights smear all around because the car maybe drives 30, 40, 100 feet in the 2 seconds you have the shutter open to expose the buildings, this bullet is moving quite a bit in 1/30th of a second. So it creates motion blur. We do not have the distinct sharpness captured by a quick shutter. So we go back to this image of Charlie Kirk. There's two things happening here. When you're using your cell phone camera, it doesn't have a traditional mechanical shutter like an old school 35 millimeter camera. Click, that's the click that you heard in a camera. If you hear any sound when you take a picture on your phone, that's a sound effect that like music that the phone is playing just to be cute and funny and let people know that you're taking a picture. There's no actual shutter clicking in the camera. The way the electronic shutter works in the camera is it's just a momentary charging of the photosensitive chip that receives the light, and it either receives the light for a very short period of time or a very long period of time. If it's nighttime, it will stay charged for a long time to receive a lot of light, and if it's bright daylight, in order to maintain proper exposure of the image so that everybody doesn't look super white and blown out, it's going to have a short exposure time. And so either through automatic settings, or in this case, I suspect probably manual settings, we have a pretty high shutter speed. It could easily be 1/10,000th of a second, 1/20,000th of a second, and you're going to get the same freezing of time on a given frame that you would with one of those very high-speed cameras. Now, we don't see the bullet moving super slowly through air because we haven't captured a temporal sample of the bullet in every single position. This, I allege, was taken at 240 frames per second. So much more than 30 frames per second, but not as much as the high-speed, ballistic high-speed footage that you just showed us. So how did I arrive at this notion of 240 frames per second? Well, if you scroll down to this image a little bit to the bottom, I think I have a ruler across the bottom. And it doesn't matter if this is feet, inches, centimeters, miles, whatever. We can look back at Charlie Kirk, and we can't really measure this image, but we know that Charlie Kirk is approximately 6'4", and we see him sitting in the chair. So we're looking at about 3 feet of his body. And based on that, the distance between each of these individually circled dots, which I allege are projectiles, it's something in the range of 2 feet, 2.5 feet. They're pretty equidistant from one another. So again, I allege these are photographs of a projectile that was launched at approximately 500 feet per second and photographed at 240 frames per second. That's why we captured 3 images of it. I'm not a math genius, but I do have ChatGPT, and I said to it, if a projectile was fired from an air gun at 500 feet per second, and there is an air gun that you can buy called the B&W M50, which is the most powerful air pistol available right now that I'm aware of, that fires at about 527 feet per second. And you can choose different calibers of ammunition to put in there, and at close range, I think it would be quite deadly. But the point is, when I calculated in ChatGPT how far, what distance would an object traveling 500 feet per second, what distance would it cover in 1/240th of a second. And the answer was 2.08 feet. And it looks to me like that's pretty close to 2.1, 2.5, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, something like that. And we've got a camera shooting at 240 frames per second, taking temporal samples every 1/240th of a second. And in the next frame after this, which I don't have in this image, the projectile has penetrated Charlie Kirk's neck, and it has come out the front of his neck, and it's hit the collar of his shirt, which stretches out as if somebody in front of him pinched it and pulled it, because I think a bullet is caught in the collar. But because it's a low muzzle velocity bullet, and because it's just gone through the muscles and tendons in his neck, it's deflected off the bottom of his skull, and it heads down about 19 degrees, going through flesh, his throat, who else knows, who the muscle and all that stuff, comes out the front of his throat. It's lost almost all of its kinetic energy. So it gets caught in the shirt, but it no longer has the energy to even rip the shirt. The shirt catches it like a net, then it stretches back, and the shirt relaxes. And I think this creates all the disturbance that people see on the shirt. The projectile falls down the front of his shirt. And now we'll never know, because they paved over this site. They destroyed the crime scene. Whoever knew that this was happening would have been motivated to do all of that, destroy the crime scene. If this was your best friend, your boss, somebody you cared about, and this event was a surprise, you might say, hey, everybody, stop stealing hats, get out of here. We need the police to come, dust for fingerprints and DNA and find the bullet and do all this stuff. I get it that you're rushing Charlie out of there to take him to the hospital, but taking down the camera, moving things, trampling through there, that sort of stuff should not have been allowed. And here's the final piece I'll give you on this, Donut. You know video, and I know video, and even people who don't know how to activate this feature on their iPhone. Every iPhone going back to, I think, the iPhone 11 or 12, which is several years ago, 5-6 years ago, they can record in this 240 frame per second high definition mode. And you might not be able to do it with the built-in camera app, but there are certain camera apps, Blackmagic Camera and Filmic and Movie Pro, that you can buy for $9.99 or $14.99, $15, $20. It's not some specialized thing, but you download this to the phone from the App Store, you buy it from Apple, and it allows you to take manual control over all of these settings on the phone. And what I'm getting at is the notion that somebody would be at a speaking event and record a guy sitting still in a chair at 240 frames per second is so suspicious that it's virtually proof that whoever was doing that had foreknowledge that a high-speed event was going to take place. This person's not sitting front row at the World Series trying to capture slow motion of the guy hitting a home run. He's looking at somebody talking. These files fill up your phone so quickly. If you're at a Charlie Kirk event trying to record high-quality video, you want to be 30 frames per second, maybe 60 frames per second, but you want to record for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, not 240 frames per second for 10 minutes. That's ridiculous. So this person knew, and we need to see that original 240 frame file.
Yeah, I have my GH4, which is a little ancient now, and I would go to these live events, and if you're just sitting there talking, it's really not that good footage unless you're zoomed in. So this would, if you're doing a slow-mo shot and you were zoomed in, like up close, it works. But a wide shot slow-mo is pointless.
It's not just that it's wide, it's that he's barely moving. So putting him into slow motion, there's no benefit. And the thing is, the files are so big on the phone, and to set it to record in this mode takes so many deliberate actions. It's not like you could accidentally push a bunch of buttons in your pocket and, oh no, it recorded at 240 frames per second. I mean, people have accidentally sent texts, accidentally started the weather application. Maybe you even accidentally take a picture with the built-in phone app. But to go in there and change it to 240 frames per second with these very specific shutter settings, it's not an accident.
Yeah, that's strange. And so do we know where this footage is coming from?
I received two versions of this footage. So this is another thing that informs me that it was photographed at 240 frames per second. About 2 weeks ago, I started working with Marine, I guess he's inactive Marine, but a guy by the name of Zeb Boykin. And he's a YouTuber, a live streamer, very smart guy, nice guy. He's been helping me. And, he went viral early on with his ballistic analysis. He's got a lot of experience with guns and bullets and video, how it reacts with shooting things. And so people started sending him these videos. And he sent one to me. I noticed, I said, wow, that's a really high quality, obviously high bit rate version of that video that you have. Will you send it to me? And he sent it to me, and I started, looking at it and studying it. And I noticed that it wasn't a standard .mov file. You edit, if you shoot a video on your phone, you download it through Bluetooth or whatever, email it to yourself, you double click it on your computer, and an MOV files and opens in QuickTime. The MOV file just opens up automatically in QuickTime Player. This file didn't do that. It wouldn't open. I said, well, what's going on with that? I had to change it from MP4, which is an MPEG-4 file, to .ts, which is an MPEG transport stream. And I had to open it in VLC, the video LAN controller. This sounds like mumbo jumbo to people, but these are tools that, people who are getting into more esoteric video work would have. And it's just not the kind of thing that your average college student who's shooting videos and putting them on TikTok, why would they have an MPEG transport stream? It's actually more of a broadcast type of a format that you would need some pretty expensive equipment to even create. And moreover, this MPEG transport stream was only 20 frames per second. And I said, well, that's really weird. How did they get to 20 frames per second? Now, another thing that I know just from my history of working with video is that if you shot a video at 30 frames per second and then transcoded it, made it into a new video at 20 frames per second, it would either play back slowly and everybody would sound like this. It would be weird, or there would be missing frames and uneven motion. And this didn't have that. Then, when I started talking with Zeb on live streams about these anomalies, another version of the video was sent to him that was 30 frames per second. And I said, well, that's interesting, because this video also doesn't display any motion anomalies, and it looks to be largely the same video, but yet it has some different frames in it. So this is why I'm saying it's coming from a 240 frame per second video, because both of these sources need to come from a video whose original frame rate is evenly divisible by both 20 and 30. Now, that could be a 60 frame per second video. It could be a 120 frame per second video. But I think it's a 240 frame per second video because that evidence of a 500 foot per second projectile appearing almost 2 feet from one frame to the next suggests that it was photographed in intervals of 1/240th of a second. And think about it. To export a 20 frame per second video from an original that's 240 frames per second, you're taking 1 out of every 12 frames. You divide it by 12. To make a 30 frame per second video out of a 240 frame per second video, you're taking 1 out of every 8 frames. You're dividing it by 8. So we inherently have different frames in both of these videos. And I think what we did is we caught a very sophisticated perpetrator trying to perpetrate a deception. And in them constantly trying to improvise their perception, they've made additional mistakes that have told us more about the details of this deception. So I've put out a challenge today, Doenut, for people who sponsor my show. And people say, oh, you're trying to make money off of Charlie Kirk. No, I'm not. I'm trying to earn money as a journalist. And if I'm unable to do that, well, then none of this information will come out. What I'm trying to do is get justice for the living people of the United States of America, so that individual citizens who want to engage in First Amendment activity, like speaking about religion or going to college campuses and speaking about their political beliefs, or even the controversial topics that you or I would choose to get into, even if we want to talk about conspiracy theories or legal cases or whatever it is, I want to make sure that people don't get murdered in cold blood for exercising the First Amendment. So I've put out this challenge. People who sponsor my show by going to X and subscribing to me at JG_CSTT or on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. If you can come up with a better explanation that refutes what I'm explaining, that proves that what I'm saying is false, I will pay you for that information. This isn't a bet. This isn't a sweepstakes. This is a call for crowdsourced investigative journalism. And just like a newspaper might pay you to write a story, if someone can refute this evidence with better evidence, I will pay $100 and refund the $5 subscription fee. And that is the offer.
Yeah, I got those links down below as well. So make sure to go subscribe to Jason over on X. And then you can find me on X too. You could go subscribe to my channel as well. Now, this tampering of video evidence, and what I really like what you said when this story was breaking that I brought up on Sam Tripoli's show, was that an investigator, we got to look at all the evidence. And I really liked how you said that, because that's what we're doing, is we're looking at a crime scene and we got to have the original footage. And me being a, I don't know if it's a symbologist, symbols and whatnot, this is nothing new under the sun. In the JFK assassination, I got like a little video clip here. Here's a Bill Cooper video showing how they were even noticing that this one video file that we got back then that was filming at the exact right time, it seemed to be tampered with as well. So, yeah, very cool.
You're talking about Zapruder, Abraham Zapruder.
Is that
there
what
you
that
go.
is?
Yeah.
Okay, you probably know more about this than me. I know in your video you said you watched the JFK movie when you were younger. Who's Zapruder?
So Abraham Zapruder was a guy, I mean, let's talk about what he was publicly and what people speculate he might have been. If we believe the public story, he owned a women's dress factory right there in Dealey Plaza, and he was, like Adam Bartholomew, just a hobbyist filmmaker. And, 1963, not everybody had a home movie camera. It was pretty expensive to buy the camera, to process film. But this is a guy who owns his own company, and he's got the film camera. So he goes down from his office, and he's standing there on the, I forget what they call it, but it's just like this stone structure that he's standing on. And he's got a great view of Main Street as Kennedy's limousine comes right down, and he captures the moment that Kennedy was shot in the head. And the thing that's really intriguing about it is, we didn't have YouTube in 1963, and the American public did not see the Abraham Zapruder film until 12 years later in 1975.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Because I always thought that was like playing on TV 24/7.
Oh, no, not at all. It was hidden from public until it was released by, I can't believe I keep forgetting this guy's name because I've met him personally. I've been out to dinner with him. Robert. He worked for Time Magazine, and he basically made copies of the film, and he delivered one to Geraldo Rivera, and they played it on Geraldo Rivera's Good Night America or something like that. And everyone was so shocked. And Robert Groden is the guy's name who got the Zapruder film. So Robert Groden gives the film to our buddy Geraldo Rivera, and Dick Gregory was on the show. And so everybody saw this film and was horrified to see Kennedy shot. And he appears to move, as made famous by Kevin Costner in the 1991 film, back and to the left. But the film that people saw in 1975 was a pretty bad quality, contrasty, contact print made from 1963 reversal film by some guy at Time Magazine. When Oliver Stone made the 1991 movie JFK, they did all kinds of groundbreaking film restoration work to the Zapruder film, blew it up to 35 millimeter, presented it in the theater. People were critical of Oliver Stone at the time because they felt that he was sensationalizing it, because there's a scene where they're in court and Kevin Costner plays Jim Garrison, who was the district attorney of New Orleans and is the only guy to ever bring any criminal charges in the JFK conspiracy. And he's showing the film, and Kevin Costner, it's dramatized, of course, but he famously says, we're told that Oswald is shooting from the 6th floor in the book depository, but of course a bullet coming down from the rear would cause the president to fall forward. But instead, he moves dramatically back and to the left, back and to the left, and they just keep showing Kennedy getting his brains blown out. But it's sort of irrefutable evidence that when you shoot someone in the front of the head with a high-powered gun, they move back and go in the opposite direction that the bullet came from. Now, we could talk for hours about the Kennedy assassination, triangulation of fire, somewhat simultaneous fire where he might have moved forward and back, all that. But of course, in 1963, you didn't have all these digital technologies that we have today. And one more important thing that I should say, Doenut, for people who are maybe skeptical about anything that I'm talking about with regard to Charlie Kirk and my claims that that video shows that he was shot from behind by a low muzzle velocity air gun of some kind. If you could just give me the screen for a moment, I want to show you this. This is a product called DigiTrigger. And I'm not implicating this company. I don't have any evidence that they did anything wrong. I'm just saying that this is a product that exists in the world that anyone could buy for $659. They'll mail it to you and you can install it in your AR style gun. I'm not a gunsmith, but people can do this. And what it does is it replaces your normal trigger with a device that can be digitally programmed to behave in a number of ways. If you're a sniper, there's a certain way you program the trigger to react to that. If you want one mechanical trigger pull to fire 2 bullets, you program it for that. And I don't know in great detail how this item works, but I can tell you that if you have something that can be digitally triggered, there's going to be a way to synchronize 2 of those devices digitally to have them be simultaneously triggered. So if you had someone firing an air gun with a digital trigger and you had a bunch of ISR drones circling around, creating a secure radio communications network, just like they would in the middle of the desert in Afghanistan or wherever these things are designed to keep your military operatives in communication, they could be creating a secure radio network between 2 devices or more with digital triggers such that one trigger pull could fire simultaneously, and an air rifle from behind Charlie Kirk that penetrates his neck and comes out the front of his throat could also cause a distant rifle round to be fired simultaneously so that everybody turns around and says, "What was that? A rifle fired over there," and nobody is looking behind them.
And when I was watching this is a documentary by Bill Cooper. He was talking about no assassin would have shot at the grassy knoll, but he believes that they let off fireworks there as a distraction. So this is sort of like the same kind of thing in a sense too. I heard you bring up a little bit that, let's say somebody's firing from one side of a rooftop, it'll distract everybody from something else and all that.
Yeah, I certainly respect Bill Cooper, but I would disagree with his assessment on this particular item. And I would give you this tidbit. And again, we now have a sort of body of assassination evidence to examine. And I can tell you, the guy that's running around on the roof, whether it's allegedly Thomas Crooks or allegedly Tyler Robinson or Lee Harvey Oswald, whoever they're telling you is firing from the roof or firing from the window, and they're showing you pictures of that guy, and they're telling you it's that guy, that's the distraction. The real shooting in the case of Kennedy was from behind the picket fence in the grassy knoll, and many people believe it was James Files. I've spoken to him, and he admits that. He could be lying. I don't know why he would. The photographic evidence seems to prove it. The back of Kennedy's head was blown off, and pieces of it were found in the grass. So it's consistent with a rifle round coming from behind the fence, entering the front of his head and blowing out the back. Charlie Kirk, people say, oh, there's no blowout in the back. We have an entrance wound, but we have no blowout in the back. I'm saying no. We have a low velocity, non-rifle round penetrating from the back that nobody has been able to see. No autopsy photos. And what we're seeing in the front is a non-standard exit wound, not from a supersonic high velocity, high powered rifle round, but from a low muzzle velocity air gun projectile. And it just pops out the front of his neck, ruptures his arteries, his jugular, whatever it does, and gets caught in his shirt, and he bleeds out and dies.
Now, you've been looking at this drone footage a little bit. Is it okay if I keep you just a little bit longer? Yeah. I know we're just over the top of the hour. I like to remind everybody to smash that like button. We're over 1,000 people watching, almost 1,400. Please share this video out, like the video. Also want to give a shout out to the 2 super chats. We got Devlin, says much love from Ontario, Canada. Happy birthday, Donut. And every time someone gives us a donation, we feed my kitty cat. Get my kitty cat super fat. Yeah, I get happy birthdays all the time. And Charlie shirt collar Mike appears to boom boom him. Thank you so much, Daniel Trulio, for the support. Much appreciated. So I want to play a clip and go over a couple of the Masonic symbolism, because there's a connection to the JFK event, which I'm not really, grasped on because I wasn't alive when that happened. But this Charlie event, I am alive for. I was alive for 9/11, and this is one of the biggest assassinations since JFK, MLK. Absolutely. So this is a historic moment in time. And I'll play this video and then we'll get into the Masonic symbolism and how it connects to JFK and Charlie. But this is a video of you looking at the drone stuff in Butler. I just ripped it off YouTube. You played it on your show last night with a guy. It was a good show. But you call up this guy and you ask him about the drone. Yeah. So I'm going to play that, and then maybe you could maybe tell us what we're about to watch.
Absolutely. So people are going to remember from the Butler, PA Donald Trump assassination attempt, there was a police report released by Senator Chuck Grassley. And that was the Beaver County ESU, the Emergency Services Unit, created an after-action report. And the publicly released report that was put out by Chuck Grassley's office was almost completely redacted. They had entire pages redacted. All the names, the phone numbers were all redacted. And I don't remember exactly why I had the presence of mind to do this, but I'm not an attorney, but I've been forced into court so much over the past 9 years that I've become somewhat skilled at doing legal filings. So I filed a right to know request, which is like a FOIA request. It's the state level version in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so the police sent me a thumb drive with the PDF report that had been given to Chuck Grassley. And this had to be a mistake. They couldn't have intended to do this, but they also included the original PowerPoint document that was used to create the report, and it was not redacted. I had all the names and phone numbers of all the federal agents. I had the photographs that had been eliminated from the Grassley report, and this guy's name was on the report. He's Rafael Eduardo Castro, special agent of some kind, and he was listed as CUAS operator. That's Counter Unmanned Aerial Systems. So I called the number from the police list, and this is the phone call.
All right, let's go to that clip.
Eduardo, is that you? Can you hear me? Is that Eduardo?
Who's speaking?
It's Jason. How are you, man?
I'm sorry, who?
It's Jason. I wanted to ask you about the drone you were flying in Butler, Pennsylvania. Was it an Andeville counter UAS drone? And why has your name been hidden?
Oh, I'm sorry, who do you work for?
I don't work for anybody. This is Jason. I work for myself. You were the drone operator, the counter UAS drone operator, right? Is this Special Agent Eduardo Castro?
Who do you work for? And how did you get this number?
Eduardo Castro? I don't work for anyone. I have a show called Crowdsource the Truth. You were the drone operator during the Donald Trump assassination attempt, right? What was the function of the drone you were flying?
Sir, there's a government phone number for official business only. Do not call this number again.
Wow.
Do you find that suspicious, Doenut? You certainly seemed surprised to hear from me.
Yeah, but just wanted to show people that you have been looking into these technologies, drone, and you've been studying a lot of these investigations. I found your channel probably during a few years ago when you were covering the Las Vegas shooting, which I'm from Vegas, so that affected me deeply when that happened, and it was just so weird, the story. But tying in everything to some of the Masonic symbolism is that the King Kill 33 book is a known thing. So I'm old school. I listen to Jordan Maxwell, Bill Cooper. So building upon what the old school conspiracy theorists talked about and adding it into today is something that I do if somebody is coming from your channel and doesn't, know. But the King Kill 33 was a known story of a Freemasonic harem abiff ritual. I have an old Masonic Duncan ritual book that shows the ritual of the third degree. So this number, we're seeing 33s pop up all over the place with these events, like Bill and the Tech Elite all met in a 33 people right before this happened, and it took them 33 hours to find Tyler Robinson. And even the word Tyler is like a guard at the Masonic door. So this is stuff that we look at as symbols, numerology, and whatnot. And I think this is from the Oliver Stone JFK film where he's throwing up the 3 too. So like
exactly.
the 3 is important because this JFK was the 3 shots that changed the America. That was like what it was known for. But the Las Vegas event, the Stephen Paddock purchased 33 guns in the last 12 months, and he was on the road to 47 guns. We saw the 47 and the 347s, the hats, equaling 33 because 7 plus 4 is 11. And the JFK assassination happened on November 22nd.
Right.
So 11, 22.
Right.
These are master numbers. And even President Trump called Charlie Kirk a master builder, which was just interesting lingo. But November 22nd, you plus that together, it's 33. And here is the court papers just showing the pattern recognition. And maybe this is, a stretch or coincidence or whatever it is, but the OTN of this case number 79584, you plus those numbers together, it's 33 as well.
Not a coincidence.
I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
No.
And then I look at like the pyramid is one of the most ancient like symbols, right? The pyramid in Las Vegas happened in front of a pyramid on the 32nd floor. In Scottish Rite Freemasonry, 32nd is a high degree, and Aleister Crowley, there's 32 pathways. So 32 is very symbolic. And I found out that the first Masonic lodge in Vegas, where I'm from, that's Lodge 32 is what it's called. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Here's Dealey Palace, where JFK was assassinated, and it's named after
Dealey Plaza.
Dealey Plaza. Dealey was a Freemason as well. It's named after this Freemason guy.
Yeah.
And they built this obelisk with 14 pieces because that goes into Osiris. So there's a lot of mythical, symbolic elements to all this. And I tie it into whatever I can. So I'm like, October 14th is going to be National Charlie Kirk Day. And so there's the 14 there. But I look at all the different symbols that this happened on a big trident. And even 9/11 is known to be built upon these tridents, the Trident True. But the 33 pops up all over, like Virginia Tech, 11 to 33. So I feel like this seems to be very symbolic. The 33s, the 3 shots that changed America. The 3 is the 3rd degree, which is like this burial ritual. And it just seems to be symbolic. So there's a little bit of that Masonic kind of symbolism. But the thing is that that's just one little secret society. There's a lot more secret societies like the Knights Templars, who their symbol is the cross, the double cross of Lorraine, and MLK was assassinated at Lorraine Motel. Right. So this is just stuff that I look into. What's your thoughts on
that? I absolutely agree with you. There's a ton of Masonic imagery all over each of these things. And, you know, some people are going to be skeptical and say, oh, you guys are reaching and stretching and doing math and this and that. Do you know what time Donald Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania?
Oh, what time was it? 6 o'clock? I forget.
6:11 and 33 seconds. And I found it so strange that major news outlets were reporting the 33 seconds. I mean, that was what originally captured my attention. And, you know, it was just so strange because it's like, wait a minute, is this a horse race or something? They never report things with that degree. Here, look, I'll show you right here. CBS News, they're telling you 6:11:33 p.m., first shot fired. Isn't that amazingly specific? Yeah. Why don't they just say 6:11 or 6:10? It seems a little too specific.
Yeah. Very. It could have been any second. And
the other thing is, look, even on their bold headlines here, 6:02, 6:09, 6:11:21 to 6:11:23, and then now they start giving you the seconds. I mean, I guess it feels a little bit more like, ooh, it's getting tense. But the fact that they've got that 6:11:33 first shot fired, it just seems so conspicuous to me.
Yes, it is. And I have a couple slides for somebody who's like, I don't know about that. You know, my reticular activation system, my RAS in my brain, searches out for symbols. So I'll be looking for that. Just like it's a good thing. Your RAS is looking for anomalies in video footage and drones, you know, something that I would never notice. And here is some 33s and 322s on these big events. This lady who was 33, this was a big story in last October, I believe. She attacked an officer. She lived in room 322. Zelensky had said, "Thank you, America," 33 times before he got punked by JD. And then there was this on runway 33, a couple like last year, I don't know, time's going by.
Right.
So quickly.
Remind me what that was with runway 33. I remember that and thinking this is ridiculous.
It's
the plane.
Yes, the
crash.
deadliest plane crash in U.S. history, number 322 on the plane on runway 33. So, I mean, this, and then wasn't this in New York? The guy on the 33rd floor?
Exactly. On Park Avenue. Exactly. Why did he go up to the 33rd floor? That was super weird. It shows up everywhere when you start looking for it. It's quite strange. And, I think you and I could do a lot of shows about this subject, Doenut. Are you familiar? I realize this song is getting a little bit old at this point, but do you remember Lauryn Hill and the doo-wop song?
Probably.
It was really big in the 90s. And look at this, her block party. Oh, 33 right there. Why is that, Lauryn Hill? There's something called the Boulé, which is a secret society I'm sure you know about.
Right. The Boulé.
I think Lauryn Hill might be part of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most of these celebrities, there's tons of different secret societies, and I find it so fascinating. I could talk to you forever. Maybe we got 5 more minutes on last minute thoughts. And something strange is Jordan Maxwell, who's this other older conspiracy theorist, he brought up the name Kirk, meaning church.
Oh, yeah.
And these guys have passed away, but this is what they looked at. And it's just weird that he brought up, out of all the things to bring up, he brought up the importance of the word Kirk, going back to the word church and Captain Kirk's enterprise. And he talked about money. And TPUSA, which is right here in Arizona. I've been to their events. They were making a lot of money. So there's definitely a financial enterprise thing here too that could benefit people. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know who did this or why, but anytime you have an organization worth hundreds of millions, I think there are going to be people who would be willing to do quite a lot to steal that, take control of that, get the influence, get the money. I mean, sure, money motivates a lot of people to do a lot of things.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm looking at. And everybody, please go subscribe to Jason. If you're over here on the YouTube, go to his YouTube. I got it linked in the description. I'll pin the comment. I got a big title, so I don't have his name in the title, but go subscribe. You're going to love it. This is Crowdsourced for Truth 12, but you got Crowdsourced for Truth 11 too, which I think I put in the description. And
they just keep obliterating my channels. I have to keep creating new channels.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. But it looks like you still got your channel. I still got mine. And go subscribe to his X as well. Jason, what can we look out for from you? And any closing thoughts?
Well, I'm going to keep on this Charlie Kirk thing. As I said, if anybody can refute what I'm saying, I welcome that. I will certainly adjust my hypothesis as new and better evidence comes along. I'm feeling pretty confident that what I've presented is very, very close to correct. That doesn't mean that we're done investigating. That doesn't mean that this is solved. I would never say that I've solved the case. Certainly not before people have been arrested and things have happened that actually seem to change the course of justice. But I think this is a good start at understanding what happened there on September 10th. I think the response from X, by putting all these unjustified sensitive content limitations on anything and everything that I publish, that has essentially just put the brakes on my ability to disseminate information through social media, I think that indicates something. I think if I were talking about nonsense, they would let it proliferate. I think they want to stop me releasing information that's damaging to this conspiracy.
Well, thank you. And it looks like we got a couple more super chats. Thank you so much, Jessica, for the super chat. Let's feed that kitty cat. Sent the $10. Holla
Nice.
holla. And RD Flui says, great journalism. Followed you both everywhere. Thank you so much, RD Flui, for the super chat. And thank you again very much, Jason. This
Thank
has been
you, dude.
awesome.
And thanks to everybody who's supporting Doenut. It's really nice of him to have me on the show, introduce me to his audience. So please, I hope people will super chat and support Doenut in all the ways that you can. And I look forward to speaking to you again. Lots of interesting topics that we can discuss. Thanks for having me on.